Over the past 3 seasons, the Houston Rockets have been one of the worst teams in the NBA and have been a laughingstock amongst the entire association. From 20-game losing streaks, 16-game losing streaks, and constant reports of how bad it is in H-Town, the Rockets haven't been a favorite team to talk about in the league amongst media personnel. But all of that is about to change. This upcoming offseason will be one of the most important offseasons in the Rockets franchise history and will determine the future outlook of the Rockets rebuild. Going into this offseason, the Rockets are on pace to have over $60 million in cap space, potential new head coach and coaching staff, and the best odds at earning the #1 pick in the 2023 NBA draft. The Rockets have been waiting for this offseason since 2021, when the rebuild began, and Houston now has full flexibility and opportunity to make major changes to the organization and roster. Now look, I'm a Houston Rockets fan, and I'll tell you right now, the numbers are right. We are not a good team at this moment. When you look at our record last year, we were 22-60, the third worst record in the NBA, and finished with a bottom 5 defense and a bottom 5 offense, while having the 28th ranked net rating. So like I said, we are not good. And due to our poor performances, the Houston Rockets decided to let go of their head coach Stephen Silas, who was a head coach for over 3 years, who finished with a 59-177 record. I think Stephen Silas is going to find a job somewhere else, and I do wish him the best wherever he goes, but due to how he performed with the schematic decisions and inability to bring out the most out of his young players on this roster, it made the most sense for the Houston Rockets to go find a better candidate that could fulfill the needs in bringing out the best out of the young players and schematically putting him in the best positions to succeed. From Woj and Shan's reports, the Houston Rockets have a lot of head coaching candidates who are intrigued in becoming the next head coach for the Houston Rockets, such as Ime Udoka, Kenny Atkinson from the Golden State Warriors coaching staff, Nick Nurse, the current Toronto Raptors head coach, Scott Brooks, Frank Vogel, who was a former Lakers head coach, and many other candidates. From the head coaching candidates that I just mentioned, you have guys who have won championships before and other coaches that have been highly touted coaches during their coaching tenure in the NBA. And I feel like when you look at the Rockets roster and the Rockets situation, you would be surprised to see that many coaches are intrigued in becoming the head coach due to the fact that this team has been one of the worst teams over the past 3 seasons. And it's a positive sign because it shows that the talent on our Houston Rockets and the flexibility that they have, many coaches want to be in this situation and think that they can bring out the best out of these guys on the roster. To me, I don't truly have a favorite head coaching candidate for the Houston Rockets because I think there's so many good choices for them to choose from. But I do think, like I said before, the best candidate is going to be the candidate that can bring out the best out of the young stars in Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., Alperen Sengun, and the entire team. You look at coaches amongst the league right now. You look at Mike Brown, who is now the head coach to the Sacramento Kings, and how he implemented an offense to benefit his 2 best players in Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, who weren't all-stars before, have now become all-stars this season, and the Sacramento Kings have one of the best offenses in the NBA and now have ended their 16-year playoff drought, headed to the playoffs as a 3rd seed. Schemes matter, coaching matters, and I think the Rockets have to pick the right guy that's going to put their players in a position to succeed going forward. I think the talent on this roster is up there with any young team in the NBA right now that's rebuilding. You look at a player like Jalen Green, who averaged 22, 4, and 4 this season. A lot of times people look at Jalen Green and you call him a highlight hooper, a shot chucker. If you watched him play this season, you know that's just not the case. I think Jalen Green has definitely shown the highest highs as a scorer in his entire draft class back in 2021. And if you look at his improvement as a playmaker and as a finisher at the rim, he's making strides in that area, and he's looked like he's going to be one of the better scoring guards in the NBA in the future. You can clearly see that he has a talent to become one of the better offensive players in the league, and I think due to the lack of structure on the offensive side in the Houston Rockets in his first 2 seasons in the NBA, he hasn't been able to really show the consistency that we want to see from him. But I do think that if he improves his IQ and adds some strength with a new head coach, this is going to be a very different Jalen Green that we see in year 3, who can become so much more lethal. You look at Alperen Sengun, who averaged 15, 9, and 4 and had the entire NBA in shock due to how well he is as a playmaker and a passer at his position as a center. I know we throw around baby Jokic and baby Sabonis, but what Sengun is doing so early and so young at his age is very fascinating, and I think the Rockets have to continue cultivating that talent and allowing him to be much more free and allowing the offense to run through him at times, which makes it so much easier for the franchise player in Jalen Green, because those 2 guys definitely have a connection that opens up the offense for everybody else. You look at the Rockets' previous 1st-round draft pick in Jabari Smith Jr., and a lot of people had a lot of memes and jokes to talk about this guy. Look, Jabari Smith didn't have a great rookie season, and I think that's fair to say. But there's one thing I love to see about Jabari Smith Jr. is that due to his poor offensive play to begin the season, he didn't let it impact his defensive skill set. And I think that his defense is what makes him so lethal because of his size, and when he gets his 3-point shooting back in pace to where it's more consistent, he's going to be a lethal player to play against. At 19 years old, he's the first rookie with over 1,000 points, 500 rebounds, 100 threes, and 70 blocks. Now we talk about the prototype wing in today's game, and I talked about that when he first got drafted. Jabari Smith Jr. is on pace to be one of the better players that you're going to want to have on your team when you're competing for a championship, and I think that Jabari Smith Jr. is only scratching the surface. He's going to get really nice. The biggest question mark I think that the Rockets have on their talent pool on their roster right now is Kevin Porter Jr. And I think Kevin Porter Jr. is an important piece for this team and what they do going forward. I'm going to tell you right now, from last year to this year, KPJ has clearly improved, averaging over 19, 6, and 5 this year. And when he hadn't played this year, when he missed a lot of time in the middle of January, the Rockets were a really bad team. KPJ's importance to this team is very understated. I think that due to his ability to create his own shot and his ability to catch and shoot as one of the better catch and shoot players in the league right now, he's very important. I do think the Rockets should shy away from having him be the lone point guard and allow him to share reps with other players, allowing him to play more off ball and with more freedom, which opens up the space for everybody else. I don't think he's a pure point guard, we already know this, but Kevin Porter Jr. isn't a bad player. I don't think he needs to be sitting as a point guard and the floor general for the Houston Rockets, but I think he should be able to play more off ball and allow other touches to other players, allowing him to have more freedom and space to operate, maybe on cuts, drives, and at times in his ISO bag when he needs to be. With the talent that's already on the roster, the Rockets secured the best odds at the #1 pick in this year's 2023 NBA draft. Now look, this draft looks like it's going to be really good. You look at Wembanyama from France, Scoot Henderson from the G League Ignite, the Thompson twins, you have Brandon Miller from Alabama. There are so many players in this draft that look like they're going to be impact players from day one or future cornerstones for many franchises. Due to a tiebreaker, the Rockets could finish with the second or third worst record, and depending on how that goes, the lowest they could possibly draft is at 6th or 7th, but that's highly unlikely due to the percentages and the odds. With the Rockets situation, it's clear as day. They should draft the best player available, which isn't bad. Just draft looks like it's going to be really good, like I said before. If the Rockets are able to get a top 4 pick, you look at Victor Wembanyama, who everybody's praying for, but if you're able to get like a Scoot Henderson, a Brandon Miller, or an Amen Thompson to add to what the core is in Houston, that's going to be a very good positive. The Rockets also have another first-round pick in this year's draft, which is projected to be which could be 18th or 20th due to how the tiebreakers go, which was a great trade because he traded the Bucks' 30th pick. Stone was able to trade Eric Gordon, the veteran, to the Clippers and move that first-round pick that the Rockets had, which is around the 30th, down to maybe the 18th or 20th pick, which is moving up 12 spots, which was a great move, adding in another potential piece that could be added or another piece that could be used in a trade package that can bring you another player or used as an asset in a trade package. Due to the Rockets not owning their pick in 2024, going to OKC due to the Chris Paul trade, it puts a little bit more stress on this year's draft, making sure the Rockets get the best player available and are content with who they pick, because there's a high chance that you're not going to get your pick next year. Last but not least, and probably the most important, is going to be free agency. The Rockets have the most money to spend this year in this year's free agent class, and the talent pool is going to be important for them to bring in some veterans and some key pieces to help this roster out. They have the most money to spend in the entire association, so I expect General Manager Rafael Stone to open up that checkbook and bring in some guys to Houston. Now, there are multiple things that Houston can do. When you look at this year's free agent class, many people don't believe the talent in this year's free agent class isn't that exciting, which is fair to be honest. But I think there are a lot of key role pieces and vets the Rockets can definitely look at to bring into Houston that are going to help expedite the rebuild process for the Rockets. If you've been living under a rock, the biggest name that has been tied to Houston this entire season is James Harden, which is ironic due to the fact that the rebuild started because Harden asked for a trade. Look, I'm from Houston, I'm a DJ. James Harden definitely has ties to the city. His family is here, he has businesses here. Him coming back to Houston is a huge possibility, and it's been reported from Woj and Shams throughout the entire season. James Harden led the league in assists and is one of the best playmakers the NBA has ever seen, and even though he's been less of a scorer over the past few years, James Harden is still one of the better playmakers and passers and floor generals that you could have in a half-court offense, and I think that he's been able to bring out the most out of Joel Embiid. And if you've seen how Joel Embiid has been playing over the past 2 seasons with James Harden, he's looked like a completely different player. Not to mention, if the Sixers wanted to match your offer, the Rockets can match any offer that the Sixers signed Harden to this offseason. So the Rockets or Sixers don't really have a true edge when it comes to the financial gain of signing Harden this offseason. Now let's also look at the other side. Signing James Harden would be great, but you would be signing him to a max deal, which could take up a lot of the cap space that you already have on your team, lowering the amount of players and flexibility you can bring in that this team definitely has holes to fill. I love James Harden. I think he's going to be a very, very good piece if he's added in here, but we have to be honest with ourselves. He has been dealing with injuries over the past few years, and due to the fact that he's getting older as age goes up, it's going to be an issue if he can't perform at the highest level that you expected him to perform at right now. That's something that they have to think about and they have to be cautionary of. If you sign up for a deal that allows the flexibility to still be there, then I think that this is a no-brainer. Bring James Harden back. But if you're not able to do so, management, Rafael Stone, and Summer Fertitta are going to have to make a big decision on what they want to do for the future of their rebuild. When you look at the team right now, there's already 13 players that are signed going into the next season, not including the 2 draft picks that are going to potentially be drafted, which will put the team roster at 15, already putting them at the max players per team. So I honestly expect a lot of consolidation trades to be happening where young players are probably going to be moved out just to create room for veteran free agents to be signed here in Houston. Now, if the Rockets don't go the Harden route, where could they go? Like I said, this free agent pool isn't the greatest. There are some good rotational pieces that can be added to help the Rockets in moments where they weren't good last year. This team lacks in playmaking and defense, which is important for a team to compete in today's NBA. Players like Tyus Jones, Fred VanVleet, Naz Reid, Dylan Brooks, Kyle Kuzma aren't big household names. You're probably hearing me say these names thinking I'm tweaking, but I think that if you were able to get in some of these guys who have had experience in the playoffs, have won championships, and have performed well in the regular season over time, you're going to add in players that help the younger Rockets players know how to succeed in moments where they weren't good last year. There's multiple avenues of what the Rockets could do in free agency, but I think one thing has been clear, especially from the organization and from the general manager, Rafael Stone. Veteran players are coming to Houston. Veterans are important, and we've already seen how much players have said that veteran guidance, veteran leadership has helped mold their entire careers. Look at what J.R. Smith said on JJ Redick's podcast just a week ago.
By the time I got to Cleveland, it was like, oh no, I'm not showing up at 10 and practice at 11. I'm here at 8. Getting treatment, I'm lifting, I'm eating, I'm doing, like, I'm watching Bron. I'm like, oh no, this is how we win.
I can't stress enough how important this offseason is for the Houston Rockets. If they can get this right, they can put their rebuild in a perfect position so that they can succeed in the near future. I believe in the young core, especially in Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun, and with the candidates that are lined up for the new head coaching position, there are many great options that can bring out the best out of the Houston Rockets roster. Add in some veterans who can help teach these young guys and carry the load when needed be. I think the Rockets can build a very, very competent, well-balanced team that can compete in the Western Conference. And if you look at the Western Conference right now, teams are clearly getting better and younger. I'll end on this, and I think I have a theory that I'll make a video on in the near future. The Rockets don't need to rush their rebuild because, as you've seen as of late, teams that have rushed their rebuild have put themselves in situations where they step 2 feet back while trying to step a foot forward. The Rockets have the assets, they have the young guys, they have the picks, they have the money, and now it's time to get it all done and bring everything together to put this organization back into its winning ways. Hopefully, by training camp, we're looking at a completely different Houston Rockets roster that many people are excited to watch when the 2023 season begins. If you enjoyed the video, definitely leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn that post notification bell on so you never miss a video. And until next time, stay on beat.